All right, welcome to the Lockdown Podcast. We're here to talk more WWE nonsense. Lots going on Raw, lots going on SmackDown. A lot leading up to 2 weeks. We are approximately 2 weeks to SummerSlam, and we already have a pretty good idea of the match card already as it stands. So it feels like the next 2 weeks is just going to solidify, the possible matches that are just going to become actual matches. So, you know, don't have to really guess. Um, so we'll break down Raw at this current juncture, which there's an absolute storm going on. You have CM Punk that has basically pissed off not only Drew McIntyre but also poking at the bear that is Seth Rollins. And so that was kind of how things kicked off. Um, I really Seth has a absolute point, you know, and I get it. Yeah, CM Punk had his own reasons why he did what he did, but that doesn't take away from him basically screwing Seth. Now, Seth talked to Damian, and Damian's like, "Hey, you're right, whatever." So once I'd go take out Gunther at SummerSlam, you can be next. Now, that is a big if. I don't think Damian's walking out champion. I most definitely am putting my chips in with Gunther just because he solidified himself, with the IC title, and then now the championship is the next level for him to go. So, I mean, so what do you guys think as far as Damian and Gunther at SummerSlam? Like, are you how much of your chips are you putting in on one or the other?
Well, I think it's already written that Gunther is going to be a champion, whether it happens at SummerSlam or it happens WrestleMania. Gunther is probably next to be, pun intended, the next big thing with a singles world championship. They're probably really big on him backstage, so yeah, it's I see the best bet is Gunther, quite possibly with some help, getting the world title. I think that sets up a feud inside of the Judgment Day that breaks them apart, and then we either get Seth and Gunther, and then Seth and CM Punk, or something along the lines with Seth, Damian, and Gunther. Maybe a triple threat. So yeah, I think Gunther walks out champ.
Me, I don't think he's gonna walk out champion. I don't think they're gonna give him the championship that early. I think they might wait a little longer to give him the title.
I mean, I really don't see much stopping. I feel like that with the new stipulation of you basically getting a guaranteed match at a certain point, it's like winning King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring now means more. And I don't think that they're gonna sleep on giving Gunther the champion. I really, Damian was a placeholder for Rhea. That's all I view it as. And now Rhea's back. Rhea's gonna deal with Liv Morgan, and we're gonna go back to having Rhea be the top of Judgment Day, and the rest of everybody are just supporting cast.
Pretty
Um,
much.
so we'll move down to Jey Uso Chad Gable fight. Obviously Jay wins, but now we get another cryptic video from the Wyatt Six. I the Jay or Chad Gable is legitimately on the shit list. It seems like um, there's been, other than the initial, first coming of the Wyatt Six, Chad's been pretty, you know, he's getting kind of slow roasted, I guess you could say, by the Wyatt Six, and I want I want someone, one of the subjects besides, you know, Sister Abigail to come out and do something to Chad Gable, but you know, it's a slow roast. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I feel like I think honestly nothing's gonna happen. I would say till SummerSlam that weekend. Maybe on that Monday something happens. I don't think the Wyatt Six going to be involved in in SummerSlam in any capacity. But again, we don't know. This is all just what we wish could happen. But I think the Wyatt Six is on a slow roast right now, and we're going to be waiting weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks with these cryptic videos. And I'll get ahead of myself, but like the end of Raw when Bo Dallas, not Uncle Howdy, and there's been nothing talked about Bo Dallas signing with WWE or anything of that nature. All we've heard about is Uncle Howdy, and yet Bo Dallas just being Bo Dallas, basically giving that same glare, that Bray Wyatt gave, essentially. And so, what do you guys make of that? Like, what do you make of Bo Dallas just being in his office?
To be honest, I like what we talked about earlier. I don't think he's going to be going by Bo Dallas. I think he's going to go by either his real name or he's going to change his name, not being Bo Dallas, because I don't think that's going to fit his character or the Wyatt Six or anything like that. I think he needs a newer name.
I mean,
something that's going to get the fans really talking about him, not Bo Dallas or Believe type of
right.
his old stupid
I feel
gimmick.
like he's definitely beyond that gimmick, and it's like it's really really going to be interesting how they're going to book Bo Dallas ex Uncle Howdy, and so like what does this mean? We don't know. We'll find out more tomorrow. But
I did like him in the office there. I like that little smile he had at the end with the whole Bray Wyatt style there.
So
and Adam Pearce was a little scared when he saw him.
So we'll move on. So we have this. So Sami Zayn retained against Braun Breaker, and now it seems to be this continued Braun Breaker assault tour on Sami Zayn. Now, it basically makes us believe there's going to be either a rematch or a triple threat at SummerSlam. I'm leaning towards triple threat just because I feel like when you have the secondary titles, it feels like it needs to be three or four. I feel like main titles is one-on-one. Sometimes, pending on how the storylines work out. But I really think it's going to be Ilya Dragunov, Sami Zayn, and Braun Breaker at SummerSlam. For the title, I think Braun would win it. I really think, yes, he's barely been, but like he's in the headlines right now, and he's raising amok. And I feel like as early as it is on him being on the main roster, I buy into him being IC title holder. But I mean, what do you guys do? You think? I mean, obviously, Sami is a strong, person on the roster. He's someone who's looked at, as a veteran of it all. But do you think that it is time? I don't think Ilya. He doesn't really fit the bill for me as an IC title holder, but I buy in Braun Breaker. Now,
I could see Braun Breaker if they do give him the title. But I would love to see Braun Breaker defend that title against Sheamus because that'll be a banger match.
And maybe that's something that we're leading into maybe down the pipeline. I mean, we have the Bash in Berlin at the end of August. Maybe he wins, and then maybe we get the Bash in Berlin. We get Braun Breaker versus Sheamus. Sheamus beats him brutally. Finally gets his Grand Slam title, and I feel like having it in Berlin, it is anywhere outside of the U.S., for, UK, Europe, whatever. I feel like that would be, but would that water down Braun Breaker that he just wins the title and loses the title because there's only 4 weeks between SummerSlam and Bash in Berlin. But
just the build with a rematch with Braun and Sammy and possibly adding in Ilya, that could be a fun match to watch. However, I think the dark horse in that is Ilya. I think Ilya does a much better job at selling than both of those guys. And Ilya is just as tough as Braun Breaker looks. So I don't think Sammy retains if it's a triple threat match, but I am going to say that Ilya might get the call before Braun. Even though the backstage is really high on Braun's character and his athleticism, there's always just been something missing with Braun with me. I don't buy him as necessarily needing a championship yet to be over with the fans. I think he's
and I think Ilya would definitely be a dark horse because, like, I mean, he's been doing this for a while too. No different than Braun Breaker. Him and Braun Breaker have gone, banger after banger in NXT. So, like, who knows? Who knows? But I feel like the triple threats. It's Sami Zayn's not walking out. Someone's winning it. So we'll move along. So we have this whole Damage Control, which seems to be really kind of fallen by the wayside. It doesn't feel like Damage Control really carries much weight anymore. Without Bayley, they're realistically nothing but a bunch of Japanese-speaking anorexic people. I'm sorry, but like, yeah, that's a rant. That's the start. I'm sorry. Dakota Kai looks like she's bulimic. She pukes after every episode. But I digress. Dude, she's skinny as hell.
I know she is.
She could put the xylophone on her ribs. But anyways, so they face Lyra Valkyria, Katana Chance, and Kaden Carter. Obviously, they win. But now we have the emergence of one Sonya Deville, flanked by Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. Now, do you think there's any threat, given, the amount of MMA background between the three of them? Do you think they're a threat moving forward to the women's tag team titles?
Okay, so they could be a threat. They are a legitimate threat. They look like a legitimate threat. They are very athletic. They are very well established with their out of ring athletic abilities and prowess. So they are much more believable than any group of women that we've had as credible threats and champions in waiting. Like we've said before, Sonya Deville and Zoe Starks could be a really great tag team, but Shayna Baszler should have already been a women's champion a couple of times over.
100%. So
I think this could be a faction that's worthy of the name Damage Control. The not to dismiss the first incarnation of that group, but I really think that with Asuka out rehabbing her knee, I don't think Io Sky and Kairi Sane and Dakota Kai are faction worthy.
They're not threat worthy.
Yeah, they're
like
definitely not a threat.
Asuka is a threat worthy. Bayley was a threat worthy.
Right.
Like I would say they're the middle tier of Damage Control. Basically, Damage Control isn't a whole lot without Bayley, let alone no Asuka.
I would like if, and I know the internet has already said this several times over, when Dakota Kai was first released, she changed her name. She was gonna take bookings under King Coda, and I think that is a really great moniker for someone who is a manager. And I
Mhm.
think Dakota Kai definitely has the mic skills and personality to be a manager, and sometimes under Freebird rules, a third.
Yeah.
She can still wrestle and she's good. I just think that the other three in Damage Control are much better at
Oh, 100%. 100%.
in-ring performances. That doesn't mean that Dakota Kai is a slouch. They just have more experience. So I would like to see Dakota Kai move into a mouthpiece role, even if it's for the short term, and just getting Kyrie and EO just the ability to interact with fans and tell stories for a Western audience, while Asuka is recovering and they find some really solid creative for them. In the meantime, this faction with Baszler and Zoe Starks and with Sonya Deville, it could work, but they have to
Book them right.
be booked as a credible threat, and they have to snatch those tag team championships pretty quick. So
Well,
maybe, yeah. So
they
it's
haven't
gonna have to
done
be quick.
yeah, they haven't done much with Isla Dawn, um, and Alba Fire with those titles. It was like, cool, let's win them in, in Europe. Cool, high five. But I feel like we're 2 weeks out from, 2 or 3 weeks out from the last PLE, and so they talk a big game, but I feel like they were champions of opportunity for where the PLE was, because like we had said before, is that like that was the one championship we could give up. Um, and so, I think it's high time for, let's just leave, we're done with this particular title run. I feel like, Sonya coming back is a big thing. Sonya's very, underrated, from her past. She has the MMA background. So does Shayna Baszler. I'm not sure exactly of Zoe Stark, but like they're very brutal, and I feel like putting the titles on them sets a precedence. Of like, hey, come mess with us. Come mess with us. Come get choked out. Go to sleep.
Pretty much.
So I see them as a, maybe like the Friday or Monday, whatever, before, or the Monday before, SummerSlam, maybe they capture them, because, they seem to lean towards the, whether it's Raw or SmackDown men's titles, or the tag team titles essentially are the ones that kind of go the week or the night before the
So
PLE.
just as a question, is SummerSlam this year going to 2 nights?
Nope, next
No,
year.
it's next year.
Next year, okay.
Yeah, and so I think that that's gonna happen sooner rather than later. With kind of the reemergence of Sonya Deville and being the badass that she is, I feel like it's gonna
Now, was
happen.
she out on personal leave due to uh out of the ring legal issues, or was she out because she had a legitimate injury, or they just didn't have creative for her and now she's returning because they have something cooking for her?
I don't know.
Sonya
I know
Deville.
she left because she got married for a while.
Sonya got married?
She suffered a torn ACL.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So
Then
that's
she got married,
Yeah,
which would make sense.
She got married to her girlfriend.
Yeah.
I guess her whole thing.
Her girlfriend that she's been with for
A few years now.
yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, cool. Congrats to her. Yeah. What else?
Yeah, I seen it pop up over social media.
Yeah. So So now the match of all matches that has nothing to do with the match, but after the match. So you had Dirty Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan versus Rey Mysterio and Zelina Vega. Great match until the end.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
there's certain music, that certain superstars have that just when it hits, it's going down. Like you think of
Oh,
like
yeah.
Stone Cold, the glass shattering. You hear John Cena's that very just subtle beginning. You have the Undertaker, you hear the gong, and then this is my brutality. Like I went mad, the crowd went mad. Mommy's back, and Dominic was just about to suck face with Liv Morgan in the middle of the ring after their win, and
Was he though?
I think he
I
was.
mean,
I
they
think he
were,
was.
Dominic, you got some explaining to do.
You
His
know,
face was in her crotch for a minute
Oh,
there.
that
but it
spot
was,
has been
dude.
used on the indies
Oh my
so many
gosh,
times,
dude.
and it's
We're
so
we're
funny.
we're so catapulting to Netflix right now. Like it is insane.
I can't wait.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, dude. And like so much going on. Like this whole story with Liv and Dominic is getting so saucy, dude. I'm just dumbfounded how far they're going. Man, Triple
Uh,
H, you are a genius. I tip my hat.
it's more
WWE,
like
WWE creative.
it's more like USA Network. Thank you for not censoring.
Right.
Uh-huh. Amen to
What are they
that
gonna do? Is
one.
what are they gonna do? Blur her crotch? I mean, like,
I mean, they could have easily cut the
know,
feed.
right?
I could pan the camera to the audience.
Yeah.
Right. Let's
I
look at this guy
digress.
holding a sign for 5 minutes.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
wow, what a
that's
great
nice sign.
sign.
Yep. So
But yeah, so that basically ended Raw, and so, Mommy's back, and man, she's showing up tomorrow, and I feel like Judgment Day is gonna get some handling of the business, and Mommy's pissed, and so, man, Monday is
And
going to
Dominic's
be
in the
insane.
doghouse.
Doghouse, dude. Man, he going in a coffin match. But so we'll move over to SmackDown, and so you
I miss SmackDown.
so basically, so you have Bailey coming out, and you have Nia Jax talking about, okay, yeah, I'm facing you, and then you have Miss Money in the Bank, Tiffany Stratton, Tiffy time, and so you have this three-way whole bit and conversation, and it's like you don't realize that, yeah, Nia, you get the match, but Miss Money in the Bank can cash in on that match. And so I don't think Tiffany will cash in anytime soon. Let's call it maybe October, November by the time she cashes in, maybe. She's not going to have
Probably.
she's not going to have a failed cash in, I can tell you that much.
Not
So
like Drew.
that was oh my gosh, don't even get me started. Don't crank the proverbial ranter in me, because that was the biggest waste of a men's Money in the Bank cash in I've ever seen in the history of it. And I
Tim,
get it. So, side note, sidebar, they basically want to get rid of the men's Money in the Bank altogether because, obviously this year they have no reason for it. So a failed cash in was just like basically pissing it to the wind. Because you have the Cody, Damian, Gunther, you have the bloodline stuff going on. So there's no one that's going to lose the title anytime soon via Money in the Bank. Now, the only thing that would have made sense on my angle is if Jey Uso won and he cashed in, let's say Solo wins, but yet and then Jey Uso cashes in on him. That would have made more sense for me, but I digress. WWE did what they did. They pissed the Money in the Bank away, and it's now we're just left with one person that's lurking around on any show that she really wants, to basically give a possible cash-ins or just the trickery of maybe cashing in, but just letting them know that she can cash in. Now, the women's Money in the Bank makes sense, and I don't think they have any reason to get rid of that match because it seems more interesting for the women than it does the men. And obviously that's storyline based because I feel like that the women's storylines are not as strong and at the forefront as the men's storylines. But I digress. And so, we're going to see, Bailey versus Nia at SummerSlam. Who knows what'll happen? That is the joys of WWE. We can guess, we can pontificate, we can whatever. But they going to do what they going to do, and we're going to just take it on the chin. So, so you have, I don't even why you would call it a match. So you have Legado del Fantasma versus Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews. It feels like talent versus jobbers. I don't
But
understand.
who are the jobbers?
I buy into the fact that Legado has a storyline, but Apollo is just a floater. And I don't know why they would punish Baron Corbin like that. Baron Corbin, I feel like, is one of those lost in the shuffle.
Why would they punish Apollo Crews? He was fine in catering. Or wherever he was. I mean, maybe he's doing a backstage role. I mean, so I looked at that match and the highlights of that match. And first of all, I like the pairing of Corbin and Crews. And I do like the pairing of Garcia and Humberto. I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing your name.
It's Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo.
Yep. I like all four of those men in the tag teams that they're in, and they put on a really good match. I didn't have any problem with it, and the match did what it was supposed to do: carry us from one big segment to the next, and giving us some wrestling. So I liked the synergy that Crews and Corbin had, and they could work as a solid tag team, whether they are championship worthy material, only if they get some really good creative and they get some lucky breaks. But I didn't mind that match, and I liked how everyone worked in that match. So yeah, I did like the spot of Crews helping to launch Corbin over the top rope onto Garza, and
maybe it's just one of those toss together and see what happens.
I mean, yeah, it could be.
I mean, essentially,
yeah,
they, the old Legado del Fantasma, was a whole different group of people, and so, what, toss them together and see what happens. I mean, sometimes they knock it out of the park. I mean, think of the New Day. I mean, a bunch of singles competitors. Let's throw them together. And they hyped up the New Day for months, with those video clips and everything else. And then when they came, dude, and now New Day is literally one of the most successful tag teams of all time. So you never know.
Right.
You never know what's going to happen when you toss some guys together, see if they gel. So, we'll kind of see where that goes, I guess. But
I think that organically is a bit interesting because we know Corbin's history, we know Cruz's history, we know of what the cousins have done. So that could be a fun wrestling based rivalry of family that has been together for a number of years, trying to get over that hump and get traction, while these other two guys for the last few months haven't really been doing anything, and now they have formed a team and they're working really good together. So yeah,
I like the Baron Corbin's team.
So now oh my god,
it's Apollo Cruz's team.
Hey, whatever. They're both great talent.
Yeah, they both really, they are, They're both very good. I think, if anything, I think that Corbin and Cruz would break apart and they would have a couple of really good singles matches, and that could be.
What did I say? Did they have single matches with each other before?
I don't know if they
When Paulo Cruz went as whatever that old
Yuha
gimmick-
Nation.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is weird. Why would you call yourself a nation? But I digress.
At least he didn't call himself a planet.
You know what? Fair. Very fair. Absolutely. But I
Watch out, it's the Blue Moon or whatever type of wrestler. I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? I don't know. Some people do come up some weird gimmick weird names.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So now what do you? So again, this was a predicted match, which obviously it's gonna happen. But like, so I won't rant too hard. But so now you have LA Knight basically challenging Logan Paul for the United States champion, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's held that thing for like, I don't know, 200 something days. He's defended it twice. You're worse than Roman Reigns. You're worse than Brock Lesnar. I like he barely shows up to shows. He's defended it twice his whole title reign, which is absolutely insulting to the secondary title being a workhorse title. Now, and I get it. You're Logan Paul. You're out doing Tetris tournaments and dumb shit like that. Congratulations, you have side jobs. But like, you're a champion of WWE. Behave like it. You know,
it's like what I've shared in our group chat with Logan Paul's thing about what his mom said about how keeping the title and stuff like that. Like my mom always says,
don't defend it.
Yeah.
If you don't defend it, you never lose it.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one, it's probably in his contract. 2, it's storytelling, how they want to put him over as a heel. 3, it's fine. It's fine. We have these ebbs and flows. We had it with the Undisputed Championship, and my position has been, hey, it makes for the character and it makes for the story, not defending all the time. And you've got this, baby face, and you really want to build up the energy for this baby face. So this is one of those WWE cookbook things that they do.
This is a big. I wish they would have born.
But I don't see him losing his title because it's in his damn hometown.
Yeah, there's that. But there's that rule.
But they've screwed Drew before, so I mean, maybe they'll screw Logan and he'll go off into the sunset, go on a helicopter, and crash. But anyways.
Oh jeez.
Sorry. That's. How about them Tigers? So
pretty much.
So we'll move We'll move past that before I rant anymore and say a bunch of nonsense. But
where we have to like censor some stuff.
So now you have DIY as the new WWE Tag Team Champions. And obviously they defeated A-Town Down Under. Go figure. I didn't like them anyways. And I think that DIY has put in the work for an exuberant amount of time, and it is very justifiably deserved. I think that it was only a matter of time before, because you had Ciampa come up, do the whole Miz bit for a second. You had Austin Theory with Johnny Gargano and that whole situation. And I think it was only a matter of time before the culmination of DIY came to be again. And it's absolutely knocking it out of the park. I honestly love them as a tag team. Watched them for extreme amount of time between NXT and main roster. I love everything about it. It's kind of Johnny Wrestling meets, the brutality of Tommaso Ciampa. So they win, life goes on. Now we just kind of wait around till we get one of those.
But life didn't really go on after that match because the Samoan Werewolf showed up and he.
Oh my gosh! He beat the holy hell. The Bloodline is the strongest group of people that don't have championships. Like,
Yeah,
Pretty
and
much.
their storylines have nothing to do with championships, but just about pure destruction. And honestly, it's Jacob Fatu. It's saying ain't nobody else.
right.
The two little squeaking monkeys, those guys do nothing for me. Jacob Fatu is an absolute freaking beast.
He is.
That dude
Basically,
can fucking
I
move.
will
Yeah.
say that Tama Tonga and Tongaloa are like JD McDonough and Finn Balor and Judgment Day. They're
Uh,
there, they
I
wrestle,
think-
they can wrestle, but then you have a Damian Priest, you have a Jacob Fatu that are just way more dominant.
Right.
You know, it's Jacob Fatu's a beast. The dude's what, like
is.
6'10", about 6'8"? I don't know what he is.
I don't know how tall Jacob Fatu is,
But like the dude, I mean, his presence is freaking scary.
yeah.
Like Randy's legitimately on the shelf. Like I don't know the exact details, but damn, he's on the shelf. He gonna be back on the shelf. You know, oh man, that was
Yeah,
a lot to unpack. Like
Yeah.
and I get it. It's TV and everything else, but like if you watch any of the videos like after the match and everything, like it was
That's
insane. Like Randy was legit like hurt.
Jacob Fatu, he is the same height as me, 6'2".
Why does he feel like he's a lot taller?
Probably because he's not wrestling barefoot anymore.
That true.
He's got the shoe lifts. He's where he borrowed Seth Rollins' heels.
Oh gosh.
Sorry, I love Seth Rollins' shoes. Like outside of every outfit he wears, I love his shoes. His shoes just, and he's the only one that can do that.
I did like the little speech him and CM Punk had.
Yeah, no, that there's a certain degree of like kayfabe, but there's also like, okay, dude, there's some genuine like disgruntled whatever like beef between the two, you know. Or Seth Rollins is the greatest actor of all times because like when CM Punk returned, dude, oh my gosh, dude.
Oh, he
Put a leash
flipped.
on Seth Rollins. That dog was barking like like but yeah, no, that was freaking intense. But yeah, so now that we're, you know, essentially, you know, we're again 2 weeks to SummerSlam. It just seems like pretty much the matches are written in the stars. Now, do you think so? Leading out of SummerSlam, let's just, I mean, we still have 2 weeks and we probably can cover, honestly, you know, a lot more, but who do you think's really actually going to come out on top after SummerSlam? I mean, you have the Damian Gunther, Bailey Nia Jax, possibly Solo and Cody, possible Logan Paul and LA Knight, Liv Morgan, Rhea, you know, and then the CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, which, dude, man. Like, I think out of all that, I'm concerned about the CM Punk Drew McIntyre stuff more than the other. Like, they might as well have a no holds barred match, Falls Count Anywhere, because it's we've already, without even them facing in a match, we've already culminated to like, hey, this feud is got to come to some outcome.
Right.
But do you really see CM Punk lasting that long as far as like an in-ring career in WWE moving forward, or do you think he's gonna be a four visits a year?
I think after he gets his main event at WrestleMania, he might cut it down, shorten his contract a little bit, like a Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar style. Maybe.
I mean, but do you think it's worth? I mean, like, obviously he's great on the mic. You know, that's not to
He's
be
the
debated.
best on the mic that I ever known.
You give me John Cena and Jerry the King Lawler making fun of Vicky Guerrero, dude. You give me that. You want to talk about mic skills, dude? Oh my gosh, dude. Have you
But I
guys
do
seen
it-
that clip about when it was Jerry the King Lawler and John Cena making fun of Vicky Guerrero.
No.
No.
Oh my gosh, dude,
I
it's so bad. He was
I
like,
remember
and-
The Rock singing to her.
oh my gosh, that was great too, dude. I tell you what, Vicky Guerrero took that stuff like a friggin' champ.
Mm.
And I
The-
watched her in person get a tombstone by The Undertaker. She took
Dude,
that like a champ.
man.
So yeah, I'm still Team Drew. If that match is not a one-sided Drew McIntyre victory, I am 100% giving it 2 thumbs down. That's the only outcome that I'm interested
Team
in.
CM Punk all the way.
Yep, and that's fine. That's fine, Tim. You're wrong, but it
That's why mine says hashtag we want Roman. So
Yeah.
I'm
so
on the Roman Reigns train. So
I really do
Same here.
want to see that one-sided match with Drew coming out on top. They'll be able to move on. Drew will be able to move on and find new challenges, new stories. I'm ready for this conflict to come to an end and for both of these characters to move on.
Never.
Tim, it's like a
Never.
boiling pot of water right now, about to explode.
and that's
The steam's
That
coming off of his head.
storyline is not going to end anytime soon.
Oh, it's
You
not.
know,
It's there's no culmination. That's not going to be at least 6 months worth of time.
Probably all the way to next year's WrestleMania.
oh, let's hope not, because I do
What
want
if
to
it's?
see.
But what if WrestleMania is? Let's say they've wrestled 2 matches, and WrestleMania would be the third, the tiebreaker match. Now under the stipulation is if CM Punk loses, he leaves WWE. But if Drew
Oh.
loses, Drew leaves WWE.
Drew just signed a big contract. He's not going anywhere, so we already know that the story would not end very well for CM Punk, and that would make a very sad Tim. And I don't like a sad Tim, you know.
You ain't gonna be seeing me over here sad. Never.
So yeah,
I
it's like,
if CM
it's been
Punk
me and
gets his ass
Frederick for
kicked,
like
he gets
3
his ass
weeks.
kicked.
Tim's like, yeah, I'm out of here, man.
Yeah.
Fuck
No,
you, I'm out.
I am more anxious to see, or not anxious, but I am more ready to see both of those characters move on into something else after SummerSlam. It's gone on enough. I've gotten my fill of it.
But it's been
And-
mostly just talk.
That's
like,
pretty
give me
much
a
all it's
real
been.
match. You know, like
Yeah,
it's
and that's
been-
what I
it's been
want at
blow for
SummerSlam.
blow.
I want that at SummerSlam, and then I would like for them to move on. Unless
think-
something insanely crazy happens in that match at SummerSlam. Other than that, I am just let it go. Let's start building up this Seth Rollins program with CM Punk.
That definitely needs
Yeah.
to
I mean, and
happen.
And let that be the
I
slow.
think with that line of it, I feel like that makes sense because it's like, you know, Drew and CM Punk. Okay, yeah, you got a lot of you've had this stewing pot for so long. Like, okay, let it boil over, let it boil over, let it happen, and move on. And I
Yeah,
because
Barrett said was Drew's been holding a grudge against CM Punk since back in the time where Drew was a chosen one. He's been holding a grudge.
the
he was
no
holding
beard,
a
no
grudge.
chest hair.
Yeah, he was
Mhm.
holding a grudge with CM Punk since back then.
You know, and that's the thing is, it's
they
like
won't say
but-
why.
Well, and it's such a weird line of story, anyways. Like,
It is.
just because, really, I mean, yeah, you could we could roll back the grudge. We could go back, the time machine and talk about the grudge beforehand. But like, it just seems to be a pissing match at this point, and just give me a solid match because Seth Rollins. Okay, so obviously Seth is torn between CM Punk, Damian Priest, and Gunther. So I don't see the storyline with Seth and CM Punk coming maybe till later in the year. I think that Seth, honestly, right current as it is, he doesn't know, because if Damian loses, essentially that match that he was promised is null and void.
Right.
So, and so if that is how it plays out, then what does Seth do? What you know because we again, if Gunther wins, we have Bash in Berlin around the corner.
Yep.
So who's going to face Gunther at Bash at Berlin? That is the looming question for me, because like as it sits, we have these pretty consistent same people storyline going on right now. We don't have anything what I would call new. You have the Judgment Day nonsense. You have the Bloodline stuff going on. You have the Damage Control now. You have the Sonya Deville, Zoe. And so like we're very plateauy right now with storylines. There's nothing new coming out of the works per se. So, I mean, who's facing Gunther? Because honestly, I feel like having him be the champion at the Bash in Berlin is very fitting. But who's gonna face him? Does Gunther say, "All right, Seth, come on, bring it"? And then
So I think at Basher Berlin, we had mentioned earlier that we were thinking that it would be Braun Breaker versus Sami Zayn versus Ilya Dragunov. Scratch that. I think it'll just be Braun Breaker and Sami Zayn. You get Gunther and Ilya Dragunov, Basher Berlin for championship. That right there is your
That
main
would be a
event.
banger. That'd be a
That
sweet
is your
match
main
to
event.
see.
You can even do Pete Dunne, and that will still be an amazing match. If you remember, Pete Dunne was NXT UK's longest reigning champ until
Yeah,
he
it was
went
the
one-on-one with Gunther, and then
yeah, he was the
then it
second.
Gunther.
He was the second UK champion.
hmm
His tag team partner that's out now was the first UK champion.
Right, Tyler Bate.
so speaking of, Butch or Bruiserweight, whatever you want to call him, like, do you think now that you kind of seen this, Sheamus comes out to help him, and then he's kind of like, "I didn't need your help," kind of thing. Like, obviously, there's bad blood between Pete Dunne and Sheamus. Obviously, Sheamus was out with an injury. Obviously, there was more to that whole breakup of the Brawling Brutes. You have Oh Boy back down in NXT, which I'm perfectly okay with. I feel like the storyline
Is he still in
with
NXT?
so he's with Chase U now in NXT, which
Okay.
I'm good with. And I feel like he's a good fit down there because he was really downtrodden, honestly, on the downslope after he botched the move with Big E. Like he honestly, and that has to that's real. That's not like some character build or some play. Like, no, I mean, you literally botched a move, and the guy hasn't wrestled since. That has to eat you alive.
Yeah,
I mean, like, seriously, like, it happened and it's done, but like, man, I mean, that makes you question every overhead suplex you do, any
Was it
suplex you do.
was it him or the other guy that
no,
got
it was
No.
Rich Holland.
It was?
It was Rich
Okay.
Holland. Yeah,
Rich,
Rich
yeah.
Holland literally botched basically a belly to belly overhead suplex and basically dropped on his neck.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
And that has to absolutely suck. I mean, because there's been botches, but like botches to that severity, I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
now do you think now the looming question is, do you think Big E will ever return?
no, he's done.
Because he's basically on the panel at this point, and
Yeah.
and the thing is that
They-
he's
they
still
won't.
Big E. He's still Big E.
Yeah.
He's still the character. He's just
Yeah.
not wrestling.
Right.
Big E is still a draw.
Yep.
There's no one that does. Oh, don't you be, like,
you know what?
there's no one that can do that.
And that's fine. And it's fine in the sense that could we have seen much more from Big E? Yeah. Would it have been a crowded field right now? Yeah. But at the same time, did we get Big E as a world heavyweight champion? Yes, we did. Did we get, all the fun stuff from the New Day with Big E? Yes. Is it a regret? Is it disappointing that we don't get to see any more in-ring talent from Big E? Yes. But do we still have Big E? Yes. Did Big E have the same fate as Droz had
Right.
when he took I think it was a it was a pile driver and broke his neck, and he ended up dying in a wheelchair. You know,
Yeah.
so we have a healthy Big E who's still able to perform. He's as a character, he's still able to um give us very good moments, even though he is not in ring talent. And
Right.
that's fine. We still have a Big E, and Big E is healthy. He's moving. He seems to be pain free from the last things that I saw on the internet and people have shared. So I I don't mind the roles that Big E has taken, and still being able to be a part of the WWE universe and still have a job, and he's still moving. And when he's 20 years from now, it's like, yeah, my career got cut short. Um, but I'm here. I can lift both my arms. I don't need a wheelchair. I can hold
Right.
my kids or
So
whatever have you.
the silver
So
lining.
yeah, it is. And for Ridge Holland, it can always that will always be a part of Ridge Holland's career and life, right? But I think with the right story or stories and the right blessings from the right people like Biggie and anyone else, we can tell a really good redemption story with Ridge Holland and help rebuild his reputation with the fans. But it's going to take some time. So Ridge Holland being in NXT, trying to find himself after that, I think is a good move.
Yeah.
Because I think they would boo him, and they would boo him severely. Not in the same, it would be for a different reason than they booed Gable Stevenson. The Olympic gold medalist.
Well,
Who,
and his
yeah.
older
So
brother got released.
yes, yeah.
Damon Kemp got released.
Yeah, or they wouldn't say, I don't think he said it was released. His contract wasn't renewed, which is unfortunate,
It's
really,
basically the
because,
same. It's the same difference.
It's unfortunate because I thought that Damon Kemp was a solid wrestler. He could,
Yeah.
he was
was.
solid.
He
Yeah.
was.
So, like the only people that are still around from Diamond Mine literally is Ivy Nile and the Creed brothers, which is crazy because Stokely Hathaway is hilarious. But I digress. So for that match at Bash in Berlin, I would rather see Gunther and Ilya go at it. I think that'll be incredibly entertaining. It's gonna hurt for
I mean,
Ilya.
Ilya's the one that knocked off Gunther or Walter at
Yeah,
the
so
time.
I was
So
to
I
say,
mean,
yeah, I've been seeing
know,
posters of people setting up what maybe this year's WrestleMania is supposed to look like. They had Gunter and him, and they had Drew as the world champion with Seth and Cody Rhodes as a triple threat, and then Roman and The Rock, and then there was another one I seen a picture of. I think it was Damian Priest and somebody. I can't remember who.
that sounds like a solid card to me.
Same.
So let's poke at the bear here. So
Which bear?
So okay, so you have this. So basically, is it Kofi or Xavier that's on the shelf? And so you've had this, Final Testament, obviously mostly Karrion Kross, trying to break up, or essentially poking at both of them about, hey, you don't need the other one, you don't need this, blah blah blah. Do you think New Day is breaking up anytime soon? I'm saying no. I don't think there's nothing for them individually at this juncture because they've been doing the New Day thing so long.
So
I say yes.
I say no, because in previous interviews before Big E got hurt, and even shortly thereafter, they didn't want to break up. There was nothing for them. There was no reason for them to break up. I could see them wanting to have singles runs, and I think Xavier should have a singles run at some singles championship, win that championship, and not let it be bad blood, not let it be, a conflict. Let it be, I'm supporting my bro.
Right.
going after gold. I've already done this, so that's
Right.
fine. So
Well, I mean,
that
and-
and that would be like a Kofi Kingston saying like, I'm gonna help Lil Bro get to where he needs to get if he needs my
Yeah.
help. Otherwise, I'm cheering him on. And I
Yeah,
know Big
I
E would be
mean,
yeah.
he's been
Eh,
a cheerleader too, because because Kofi Mania, you
Mhm.
had Big E, cashing in Money in the Bank and everything, and so like you've had, him basically watch both of his buddies, have gold. Now the only thing that thwarts me from that is that like I'm not buying Xavier Woods as a world heavyweight champion.
I don't think he's ever said world heavyweight champion. I think
Yeah,
I think
like any singles title. I mean,
I
it's
see
so
him intercontinental easily. I see him US champion easily.
100%.
Do I see him? I could see him going after as a contender for the world championship, not the undisputed, not the one that was been unified, not that one, the brand new one.
Hmm.
I could see him going after the brand new one, against the right person.
Right.
I couldn't like.
It's just
Yeah.
tough to really contemplate like who, because honestly the roster is very like a well-oiled machine right now.
Right.
Our storylines are solid. Our our scripting, our character building is just, it's on another level right now. And so like it's hard to depict who would essentially be, I mean, I don't want to say easy, but like, a relevant person that he could take a title off of without downplaying his actual extreme talent.
So I could easily seeing him being someone that could challenge a Sami Zayn, challenge a Logan Paul, challenge an LA Knight, and this is Xavier Woods.
Right.
Who do I see more believable holding one of those championships is Karrion Kross. He's got a look, he's got a size, and he's got a demeanor in his character that would allow him to be able to snatch that away from someone who's been a perpetual baby face for the last 7-8 years.
And they've
So
definitely misused Karrion Kross.
they have. I don't get the final testament, but what I would get is Karrion Kross and AOP holding championships and being very dominant with those championships.
They have the stature.
Yeah,
I mean,
they do.
AOP, they've been Raw, and I think they've been either Raw and SmackDown titles, or at least one of the titles they have held.
Yeah,
And
I think
it's
they
like,
did the NXT. I'm not 100%
I
sure
think
that
they
that they
Tim,
had.
you want to do a fact check on that if AOP's won a main roster title?
They both have they both won the Raw Tag Team Championships.
Okay.
So
The only titles they haven't held is the SmackDown.
All right.
So
that would
And
make
they
them
held it.
I mean-
They held the NXT, and then the main Raw Tag Team Championships. I think they held it twice.
I just like AOP is a dominant, group of dudes, but like I feel like they still just have, I hate to say, a little bit of, immaturity as far as ring like longevity, and
So their ring work isn't as polished as someone like the Viking Raiders. And they also have zero character or zero charisma. Like when they come in, it's just kind of like somebody's about to somebody's going to get beat up. And that's Paul Ellering's job, is to speak for them, because they probably know that their mic skills are non-existent, right?
But Paul doesn't speak that much though, which is really confusing.
They just remind me, their team, the way they fight and the way they act, they remind me of the old team back in I think it was WWF at the time, where Eric Bischoff introduced them the 3-minute warning. The way they carry themselves in that ring, they fight 3-day warning. They didn't barely freaking talk. They just went out there and beat the living crap out of people.
Well, and that's the thing is too, is that you have Paul Ellering, who's literally a legend in and of himself, but it just still seems to be like he's just there for the nostalgia because Karrion seems to do all the talking. And it's
Yeah.
because honestly, AOP could just have Paul Ellering and just be that.
Which
you know,
isn't a bad thing. I wouldn't mind seeing the Final Testament be something along the lines of it's Karrion Kross's faction to have the upper hand against other characters to get him over as being a heel.
Yeah.
And outside of that, I think Karrion Kross, with the right creative, with the right story, which I think this is fitting him a little bit, could be like this underdog. Maybe it could be a bigger thing,
I think there's a
I
lot.
was gonna say I like his new look. I like the new biker style look.
Yeah.
For him, it fits him.
I think there's a lot brewing, on the stove, as we'll metaphorically say. Like, I think that there is a lot of layers to the Final Testament that I feel like hasn't been unlocked yet. I feel like we're still getting kind of AOP of old, same aggression from Karrion Kross that he's always had, but it just seems to be a mishandling of talent at this point, I think, because, Final Testament, I mean, when they come out, dude, the whole black and white stuff, like
The whole NWO style.
Yeah, I mean, it just hits. It's just like you have the allure of them, you have the dominance of them, you have the legend out there essentially by your side, and then because honestly, I feel like AOP be better off just with Paul Ellering, and that's it. Like, because Karrion Kross carries the commentating of the group way too much and doesn't let because Paul Ellering, what he did, he was the manager for the Road Warriors.
Yep.
I think.
Yep.
And so he can clearly do the job. He doesn't need another mouthpiece on top of a mouthpiece to get his point across, because really all it just takes is, you want to fight these guys, bring it on. Like something that simple, but like Karrion he has too much dialogue. It's like, dude, get to the point.
Karrion is, so like so some of the Bray Wyatt promos that I've felt, Bray Wyatt could give a long promo, right? And it would resonate with people. I think when Karrion does it, it turns people off.
Yeah.
I'd rather him just, tick-tock, time's up, whatever it is, and go on about his day. Or maybe in like a filmed promo,
right,
like a theatrical or cinematic promo, I would want to hear him, be more engaging. But yeah, I think they need to like reframe that, because his long promos probably are turning people off as opposed to getting them engaged.
Well, it's the one thing that honestly, like, it just confuses me about WWE and their booking and everything is the fact that, like, you have these teams continue to talk about their dominance. The Judgment Day has obviously held gold off and on, so that they've reached what they were trying to get to. And so, you have, the Final Testament, who is literally could just be whatever they want to be. They should have gold, but they sit and they talk about dominance, but they're not doing anything with the stature of dominance that they have.
Right.
And so it's super confusing when, Judgment Day runs runs whatever, like, and to a certain extent they kind of do. So like, so Final Testament, if you talk about it, I want to see you put the good matches in.
Right.
That so Judgment Day has put
that
in.
goes back to what you were saying, about dominance with a championship, or calling yourself what you are and not having a championship. Like, when the big thing with Jey Uso calling himself the main event Jey Uso, and I look at it quite differently. You know, when they come out and have a dominant match, is it one-sided? Is it, you know, just a beatdown? And
Right.
you know, you're thinking like, if you're dominant, go get some championship gold. And it's like, well, they probably would have had championship gold if they would have been booked for a championship match, but they're not having it.
Right.
So it's kind of like, you know,
it's like
I get it.
It's like
Yeah.
misbooking. It's like
Yeah, it's like-
misbooking. I mean, Jay should have
Yeah.
won Money in the Bank. I mean, I'll say that 1,000 times.
Yeah.
You know, he had his storyline working for him, and he could have
yeah.
held on to that thing and cashed in on Roman or, you know,
But
whoever from the bloodline might have. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it wouldn't have given us what we have now. We have a much more exciting build when it comes to Drew and CM Punk and that cash in.
but he didn't need to have the Money in the Bank to give us that story.
Hey, he
Like,
could
that's-
screw him over.
That's the biggest thing is that CM Punk could have screwed Drew. He could have been Drew, been going for the thing, and then he comes and smacks him with a chair, and, you know, gives him.
You're
you know what I'm
speaking
saying? Like, give him
in the Money in the
Yeah.
Bank match directly. There
Yes.
could have been
and he could have literally given him the GTS, dude, pushed him out of the thing, and somebody else won, and we would have still been on the same trajectory we are now.
You know what?
Yep.
And someone called an audible. For whatever reason, someone called an audible.
And it comes back to they didn't
because that sounds more believable than what we got.
I agree. That's the way it should. That's the way it should have went.
And I get, you know, after, you know, reading some stuff and talking about how they don't want to have the men's Money in the Bank, but I'm like, don't do it like this. Don't water it down like this. If you wanted to say, hey, we're not doing Money in the Bank anymore, all right, cool. But give us that last match mean something. Let that last match be a solidifier, and then be like, hey, we're just not doing it anymore. All right, cool. But don't leave the bad taste in our mouth of what we got now. Like that is leaving a bad taste in a lot of fans, in a lot of people that are like, this was stupid.
But would the different outcome, would that have made you want to watch that match even more? Because right now it's like you're so frustrated with the creative that's all that anyone can think about who's watching it from an analytical view. But if you're just watching it, you know, just as a casual fan or just as a fan who doesn't buy into the things that we do, that we're talking on this podcast,
they should shut their mouths.
No, but
because, like,
which outcome would have made you want to watch the match more? The outcome that we got, or the outcome that we daydream or we would fantasy book?
Because I feel like Jey Uso in the long run screwing over the bloodline is, you know, like I said, Drew could have gotten screwed by CM Punk in a different way, and we'd still be in the same place we are. Because you'd be like, oh man, you screwed me out of 2 title matches, you screwed me out of getting Money in the Bank. Like that would have made it even worse, because like not only did he like screw up the cash in, but he could have just screwed him out of even getting it. And honestly, that match was a complete botch anyways. Freaking Damian Priest need to learn it and get his damn shoulders up. The match was a joke. Like
That
they were
match
waiting
was a
because the music
So-
was because Drew McIntyre's music was supposed to cue at 2. That's why we had what we had.
So the question,
And
the
The truck screwed up.
the question that I have is that, did CM Punk say in one of his promos anything about you'll never be a champion again as long as I can help it, or whatever I can do? Because the thought is where CM Punk interfered. So if CM Punk would have interfered in him getting Money in the Bank briefcase, that's not a championship match. So why would he interfere with that? But because because Drew McIntyre did win and did get the Money in the Bank briefcase, that is a direct
it's more
cause
a
of action
stab.
for CM Punk to.
I mean, it's a bigger stab.
So maybe that's the creative that they went with, because what was laid out in front of him. So it's kind of like having this continuity in the story. It's like, well, CM Punk said a direct thing, something about directly interfering with his championship matches. Money in the Bank is not a championship match. It's it's a melee.
Well, yeah. I mean, it essentially it puts us between the feud being a 7 and the feud being a 10, and like that makes sense of how you put it, in that regard. Because because now he screwed him over 3 times now
for a championship match, and
You
CM
know-
Punk had previously said, CM Punk previously said, you'll never be a champion again, as long as I
As
can
long
help
as
it.
I have a breath, air in my lungs or something like that.
So if he said that, then he had to interfere in the championship match. So he couldn't interfere in Money in the Bank because it wasn't a championship match. So and it
Does have
doesn't
a
make sense.
point there.
It doesn't make CM
Yeah,
Punk
it's
look
not- it's-
like a liar. So CM Punk can say in his press conference,
He had
well,
to screw him at the highest level.
right. So
What I wanted was a 7. What we got was a 10. Is that what you're basically kind of rolling out?
I'm it's not that I want to give it a 10 because I don't like Punk. I don't, but at the same time, yeah, because it builds the cult and the ego around Punk. And it gives us more to chew on. Remember, we've already said that there's a WWE cookbook and they cook in layers. So this is one of,
$7 salad.
pretty much, pretty much.
Where just add
So-
the pecans at this point? Like,
So
I
it-
mean,
it's- So
Like,
it's one of the to me
it
it
sucks,
reminds
but we all know it's good for the long run.
right, because it gives the character it gives the characters more it brings out more details in the characters, and that's just a detail that we have now because what was said. And kudos to them if CM Punk said that. I'm not 100% sure because it was a CM Punk promo and we already know how I feel somewhat about the character of CM Punk. So Tim would have to validate that. So
Do you think
so
they're
now
really
it makes
dragging
sense.
out? Do you think they're really dragging out CM Punk's energy? I think he's fine.
Yes. There. Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
He's definitely
they-
fine. Yeah, there's
like-
definitely going to be a match at SummerSlam.
I mean,
yeah,
that's
I
what-
can feel
I
it
mean,
after
there's
Yeah.
going to be a
tomorrow.
match. It's just
Yeah,
like you keep on
he'll be
saying, "Oh,
fine.
he's not 100%." I'm like, dude,
Well,
come
he's
on, now,
100%.
dude. You
You
wouldn't
know
be
what?
having much involvement in these matches
You
and
know
doing what you've
If he
done.
wasn't,
you
if
were
he wasn't
100%.
100%, they would not have him do any of this shit.
Yeah.
It's all the theatrics that revolve
It's
around
all just a little-
kayfabe and
Jab at everybody.
yep. So you know what? He'll be good. He'll be good enough for that match. He's in the ring with a very good performer in Drew McIntyre. So I don't have a problem with him going. His whole bicep arm, whatever it was that he tore during the Royal Rumble, I think that was a long-term injury that finally just had its
His whole career is a
Phil?
long-term injury.
you know what? That's only for the people watching. So, so it was just
Let
one of those
Tim
things that
speak.
happened.
Let Tim speak. I want him to unpack his eye roll and his
So,
wrinkles on his forehead. Like, Tim, explode.
Oh, yeah,
I'm lighting the match.
He's been hurt. Yes,
Yeah.
I get that, but
Mhm.
look at half the fucking people he's been in the past, like fucking Ryback, who is a terrible fucking wrestler who shouldn't
yeah.
even be in the fucking ring. He's hurt so many people, just like fucking Nia Jax. She's hurt so many fucking people in the ring.
I
They're
give Nia Jax a little bit more of a pass than Ryback.
true.
Yeah. So
Ryback,
It's like
and
you
again-
you had Ryback hurt CM Punk multiple times, and he's got
Right.
hurt because of it. And CM Punk's even freaking admitted it that he's not fit to be a wrestler.
he's
and
not a safe
he's-
wrestler.
Yeah, he's not a safe
You-
wrestler. He's mentioned that
well,
to the
you
staff
know-
members in the back.
And you got to chalk it up to. So it is as much as we hate certain wrestlers, some of these wrestlers are excessively safe You
Mhm.
know, you see countless videos of other wrestlers saving other wrestlers.
Mhm.
You know, and it's like okay. So basically, for anybody who doesn't understand what WWE is, okay, so it's a basically an improv match with a determined outcome, and so you everything in between is just them doing what they do, and honestly, that shit is insane. If you really think about it, like especially like let's call it back in like the what was it? Shawn Michaels and Owen Hart was like what was it, like an Iron Man, like an hour match or something like that.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
Like
that was a
you
good
know,
match.
like think about that for a sec. This podcast has been going on for an hour and 15 minutes right now. So imagine us just talking and literally them fighting. And it wasn't a like, oh, he's out of the ring for 5 minutes. Like, no, these are matches that are freaking brutal. Like, dude, I tip my hat. Like the amount of skill these guys have.
Mhm.
That match was pretty brutal and
I
pretty
mean,
good.
dude, and it's like you even go down to like NXT, right? NXT is a 2-hour show, just like SmackDown is. So they have some crazy matches, and for those of you who don't know who Obafemi is, you best know who this dude is. He is a big ass Nigerian who literally threw Wesley like a helicopter. Okay, look it up on YouTube. Obafemi F20 they call it. Okay? So the bumps that these guys are taking and the skills of all the in between stuff, I mean, this takes years to hone. And the fact that some of these guys have picked it up so quick, again, I hate Logan Paul, but he has picked up quick on the wrestling bit of it. I give him that much. That's the only thing I give him. Okay? That is the only time you'll ever have me make a positive thing about Logan Paul. So, but like just in general, I mean, these wrestlers, dude, I mean, you're talking 20, 30-minute matches sometimes, like back and forth, crazy moves. I mean, you think of like let's say what was it Eric or Ivar that got hurt? Was it Eric?
Ivar. They're
It's
both hurt.
Ivar. Yeah,
But
Well,
they're
so like
both hurt now.
you
yeah.
think of that big man doing what he does in the ring. Like Otis, same thing. Like hell, Bronson Reed, hell, Braun Strowman, Brock Lesnar. You think of like if you stood next to these guys, you'd be like, damn, nah, I'm yes sir, no sir. Like, and the fact that these big dudes are doing these kinds of feats of athleticism, like, call wrestling whatever you want, dude. But I don't see or freaking The Rock even has a stunt double. Okay, Vin Diesel has a stunt double. These guys don't have stunt doubles. Okay. Like, so I digress on that little rabbit trail of goodies, but like, yeah, I mean, so
I think what you were alluding to is that all these athletes are performing these things. They're bound to get hurt, and CM Punk being able to
yeah,
work a quality match that where he won't get hurt. And the joke is that, his last few matches, wherever he's been, he's gotten hurt or he's been hurt, and that he would be able to
well, and he's
work
done, and he's done
with Drew
MMA on
McIntyre.
top of all this,
Yeah. So
and
I
so
think he's gonna.
Pretty much failed in.
Yeah. I think he's
James
going
says
to
something
be
negative about
fine.
CM Punk. Yes, we won,
You
but
know,
like, yeah, no,
Yeah, he's going to be fine in that match. He's going to be able to work that match. Him not being in the ring performing is only giving his body more time to heal. I'm sure that he's still doing the things necessary as a professional wrestler and an athlete to be able to work that match. It's going to be a very good match. Hopefully it is very one-sided and short so we can start to move on away from this Drew versus CM Punk thing.
how many claymores do you think he's gonna take?
At least 3.
I'd say 2 claymores and 2 future shocks.
I think he'll avoid the Future Shock DDT because that's how he got hurt the last time.
maybe that's the point.
Yeah. I think there will be a go to sleep, a GTS.
There definitely will be.
Oh, man.
At least one.
Still, what am I
I say
saying?
2.
Still
You
one
know,
of my favorite
yeah.
finishers. It's just
You can thank Kenta for it.
see we've gotten some light content, some aggressive content, a little bit in between. I feel like this was a good episode, dang it.
It was.
Just
It
a
was.
just a few, rants,
Yeah.
Yeah, a little
as
bit
I
here and
do.
there.
Yeah.
Mm.
You
You
know,
know.
I don't fancy myself the ranting legend of this podcast for nothing, so we all play our parts.
Yes.
That is
But
true.
Yep.
so so we'll kind of put a pin in this. Again, we have 2 weeks to SummerSlam. We have plenty to get to in the coming week. Judgment Day stuff, Wyatt 6 stuff, Bloodline stuff, all kinds of stuff. We will definitely get into that next week. So I wish you all the best. Have a great week. This is the Lockdown Podcast. Peace.